Hi, my name is Mimi Mudd, and today we are going to talk about binaural beats. I am here with my friend Patrick Hume. He is a music producer and musician in Louisville, Kentucky. Just a little bit about Patrick. He has his own recording studio, Last Horizon Studio. A couple of years ago, Patrick recorded an entire album full of binaural beats called Ohm. Let's see. He's a busy musician between owning and operating Last Horizon audio recording studio and teaching guitar lessons. I don't think he teaches guitar lessons for these people anymore. I won't read that part. Patrick plays with the bands Analog Cannibal or Jazzatron. Patrick, is that still true? Are you here?
All that. That's actually the most recent information.
Okay.
I teach at the George Brothers Guitar 3 days a week. Yeah.
Yeah, he does. Okay, good. He does still teach lessons at the George Brothers Guitars 3 days a week. Here, I'm going to show you all this picture of Patrick playing guitar. Let's do a screen share. We'll introduce Patrick here. There we go. So yeah, this is Patrick. Patrick and I have been friends since we were teenagers, and I have been living in Costa Rica for the past 10 years, and Patrick has been in Louisville, where he teaches and plays in bands and records music for other people. And so we haven't seen each other that often, but a couple of years ago, while I was pregnant with my son, I heard about Patrick's album, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. But I was really busy becoming a mom again and focused on that, so I didn't put too much attention to it. And then earlier this year, I started teaching yoga again. I got back into yoga classes. And when I got back into teaching class, for the first time ever in the whole time I've been a yoga teacher, so over 10 years now, I started integrating binaural beats into my classes during Savasana. And when I did that, I noticed a huge difference. The Savasana has totally changed. Your goal always is to guide your group, your people that you're teaching class for, through a class, so that when they lay down for meditation and they relax at the end for Savasana, they're completely ready to give in and open up and enjoy that meditation experience. And with binaural beats, I feel like that totally changed, and I could watch people's breathing change. And then obviously what was most dramatic was the testimonials that I got from participants after class, with people saying, wow, that's the first time that I ever fully relax while I was awake. That was the first time that I've ever been able to meditate, and comments like that. So I knew that was a really powerful thing. I got into it. And if you've been coming to my yoga class in the past 6 months, or if you've been following me through my emails and stuff, then you've heard me talk about binaural beats in class, or you've experienced it in my class, or maybe you got the download, because I think since about January, I've been offering a free binaural beats track download through my website. So at some point, I think it was like back in April, I called Patrick to talk about his album that he made, and sort of pick his brain about, like, wow, how did you make the album, and what do you know about binaural beats? And I was just totally impressed by how much he knew. I thought it was so cool that he was kind of an expert in it, the most expert that I've ever talked to. So I'll turn it over to Patrick and let him sort of introduce himself a little bit and talk about Ohm, his album.
Well, yeah. Originally, the album was released in serial form, so I put it out twice a week for a couple of months, until I had the full album, which I guess is I don't know, about 12 tracks, 10 tracks. I've lost count at this point. And I'm doing some more nowadays. But yeah, the original intent was to take a binaural beat, and I'll explain those in a second, and then just compose, improvise meditation music over it. So essentially, I actually meditated in the same way that a listener would while I created it. So I would play and focus on the beat and the breathing, and then that's how I created the songs. So, and I think by the I was done, I ended up with 12. I think it was 12 on the record. Uh, so, yeah. Mimi, do you have those graphics loaded up?
I do. I have those graphics. That's awesome what you're talking about, that you're like, you feel like making the album in itself was a meditation, that you were.
Sure. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I looked forward to it. Yeah.
I assume the reason, like when you said that, you're like, oh, I better explain why I'm saying that I was meditating while I was making the album. So, and I think this is like the key feature of what's so it made such a big impression on me is how binaural beats work. Like there is science behind it. And so,
Mhm.
which image would you want me to pull up? The first one?
Yeah, so I could tell you guys right off the bat what are binaural beats. Well, um, the first thing you need to understand is that we all hear binaurally. Basically, it's just a fancy word for two ears, you know? So every sound we perceive, unless you're unfortunate enough to be deaf in one ear, you perceive all these sounds just like we perceive all the sights in through both ears at once. So we're used to hearing things binaurally. Um, so I did a quick bit of research to make sure that I was up to speed on all this, but binaural literally means having or relating to two ears. So um, binaural beats, in a way, are like optical illusions. Whereas if you had, uh, you know, one color on one glass of a pair of 3D glasses, for instance, you'd have like I guess it's green and red. And when you perceive the image, it's a 2D image, but when you see it, it's actually looks like it's 3D. So in a way, binaural beats is an aural illusion or an audio illusion, in the same way that optical illusions happen when you look at certain types of drawings. And we'll get to that in a second. But if we could go to the second image, um,
Yeah.
uh, uh, as a recording engineer, most things you hear nowadays is in stereo. So what's all that stereo is your left and right speakers on your that's why it's called a stereo system. So back in the day of the early days of radio and the early days of recording, everything was mono, which means one audio signal. So you could think of it like my mouth. When I talk, I'm talking in mono. There's only one sound source, and it's coming right out of my mouth, and it's hitting both of your ears at once. And also this signal coming from my phone. There's only one microphone on the phone, so this is a mono signal. So even though you have two speakers, you're still getting one sound source. Now, modern day records are two sound sources, a left and a right channel. And the left, if yeah, everybody's, when you listen to your next favorite song or album, you'll hear that sometimes the piano or the guitar is coming out a little bit more out of the left speaker than it is the right, and maybe the singer's coming out a little bit more of the right speaker. So that's stereo. We split the signal of the entire mix between the two channels. So that's the first thing you need to understand when you're understanding what binaural beats is that when we listen to music, we're listening to two separate channels of audio split between the left and the right speaker. The second thing you need to understand is just some basic bit about how sound works. Sound is sound waves, and sound waves uh, we measure them with hertz, these frequencies. So this will be the next image. Hertz is the William something Hertz was the guy who's credited for finding this, and hertz occur in lots of things, magnetic frequencies, radio frequencies. Um, all it is just what it says right there, a number of cycles per second. So 60 hertz is 60 cycles per second of any measurement. But in music, we measure these as sound waves. So what notes are when you hear notes, I actually prepared my piano. If you can take it back to me, I could show you the difference between pitches. Um, so can you hear that?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll turn it up more. All right, so that would be a pitch of 440 hertz, which is what an orchestra tunes to. That's A440. And it sounds like an in-tune piano to me. Now, I set this up earlier. This is actually A446. I don't know if you can hear the difference.
Yeah, I totally can.
It's a hair sharper. It's a hair higher. So when you put them together, it actually sounds like a honky-tonk, out-of-tune piano. Can you hear the waves? Those are the two frequencies fighting against each other. One's A440 and one's A446. So the difference between them creates that out-of-tune piano sound. So if you can go back to the next chart, I made a chart of all the frequencies we hear. Well, I didn't make it. I found it on the internet. Somebody with a lot more time than me made this nice chart. And as you can see here, it goes to the lowest range of human hearing. Most humans can't really hear below 20. And I've been doing music and rock and roll a long time, so I can't really hear very well. A real low pitch like 220, I guess. No, it's not even. It doesn't even register on my piano here because they don't expect you to play that low. So that would be at, let's see, the lowest pitch they have here on this chart is A. That's 27 hertz. That's a real slow cycle for a sound wave. And then the higher notes get up to 4,500 or 5,000, sorry. And that's a little bit at the edge of the human hearing. I think we really stop hearing around 10K. So this is all very convoluted, but the point is, all notes that you hear, whether it be a guitar, piano, a singer, they're all measured in hertz. So when I make binaural beats, the best sound source is a pure sine wave. Now, sine waves don't really exist. There's something called the harmonic series. For every time you hear a note on a piano or a natural instrument, you hear what's called the fundamental plus all the harmonic series above it. And that's a little bit more complicated that's some music theory. We don't really need to get into that. But if you can go to the next picture, I'll show you what a sine wave looks like. It looks a lot like the earlier picture of how we were measuring sound waves. Sine waves travel in these very even, smooth sounds. So like a flute kind of has a similar quality to like a sine wave. The first electronic instrument, the theremin, was a sine wave. So when you make binaural beats, here I'll play a sine wave for you. Here's one I was messing with earlier. This is A440, that same tone that I was hitting on piano, but this doesn't have any of the harmonic series. It's a pure sine wave, which again can only be really accomplished by synthesizers. So that's A440. That sounds like, when I was a kid in music class, that's what we tuned to. We would have to match our instruments to a pure tone like that. So let's go back again and talk about auditory illusions. So you have, like I said earlier, 3D glasses. Because of the filters in the glasses, you see like a 3D image from a 2D movie screen. Well, if you go to the next image, we'll see some very familiar optical illusions. And what binaural beats are essentially is the auditory version of this, right? So if you look at the left picture, it's two faces looking at each other, and in the middle you see a white vase. And then the other one, if you stare at it close enough, it looks like it's moving, even though the images aren't moving at all. this is what happens when you listen to a binaural beat. I'll play you right now the first sine wave pitch. And the only way this works, because of the human brain, is if you have it panned so it's coming out of one speaker source. Um, so, the left channel, you would hear this. But then in the right channel, now you're not going to hear this because you're hearing, you won't hear the difference between left and right because you're coming again through my one microphone, one source here. That's actually a hair higher. Actually, it's supposed to be. Yeah. So that's A446, 6 hertz higher. So if you can go to the next image, I'll show you how binaural beats work. You put these two sound sources together, you hear the difference between them, between your ears. So one would be A440, like in this ear, and one A446 in this ear, and the difference it's I find it rather soothing. I think that's why the binaural beats are so popular, especially at lower frequencies, like 200 hertz here, 205 hertz. These are lower. This would be like the range of the bass guitar, or like a trombone, or my vocals sung at a lower range. So in this example, we have what's called a theta wave, because the difference between 200 hertz and 205 hertz is a difference of 5, and that's what we call theta. But we'll get to that in a second. If you can go to the next image, this is actually what I've recreated here in my studio.
Oh my goodness. Patrick, you're like, this is a seminar. This is awesome. You're so well prepared. I feel like I'm just going to change your images. No, this is excellent. I absolutely love it.
I'm sorry. Am I going too fast? You can ask questions.
No, I think this is really cool. I like this visual. I like this visual right here. I think it's really cool that I got you like doing the physical gesture with your hands right before we put this up. There we go. Got the visual done. So you're ready that was number 7. You're ready for number 8.
Yeah, we're almost through the visual portion here. I just came up with all these because I thought they would help better than
they do. They do. It's excellent. This is like so educational. I absolutely love it. Here, let me open up this 8th slide.
Well, this is what I'm going to demonstrate right here. You have A440, which is the pitch that's coming out of my left speaker here in the studio. Now, of course, the people at home can't tell the difference. And here's the one on the right speaker. You should be able to hear a difference in pitch.
Yeah, I hear it.
Yeah, so one's 6 hertz higher than the other. Again, this would be called a theta wave. Now, what we have here, when I play them both together, and the bottom image should demonstrate this, a rather high pitch, and I don't really base my songs off of pitches that high, because it doesn't leave a lot of room for musical interpretation. But you have that frequency that's fighting. Now, it works a lot better if you can hear it through left speaker and one through the right speaker. And that's what creates the illusion of a third sound, or actually just one sound, the beat. That's where we get the term binaural beats. So in this case, the beat would be bum 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 bum. Do you hear the rhythm?
I do. I hear it.
And that's what's happening when you put your headphones on and you listen to binaural beats. It puts your brain in an I'm not saying an odd state, but if you really focus and breathe, you can kind of get out of your own head, out of your own way. It's a really neat illusion, and I think the research on it is very, very young, but I think they're going to find that it'll help. They're already, don't quote me on this, but I've been doing some research over the past few years, and I've heard I've heard of some psychiatrists and psychological, sorry, shrinks using
Exactly.
this
I got you. I got you.
using this to help people with PTSD, and really it's a tool to help you calm down and meditate. Really, the science is out on what it does to you. They know it doesn't hurt you, but what they've found in it's called your brain. Let's back up a second. Let's talk about the brain.
Back up a second. Just
Yeah.
back up. Just
Yeah. When you're talking about the brain, you have it's an electrochemical organ. So it's capable of producing 10 watts of power. So what I like to think of is these binaural beats tune your brain, because what they've done when they've studied this, they've had listen to people listen to these exact things that I just played to you, just simple sine wave tones at different frequencies, and they found that the brain kind of mimics those same sort of impulses, right? So if you're listening to what they would call delta, which would be like say A440 to A443, that's a difference of 3. They would call that delta 3. So that's where you get those terms that you see on YouTube with all these binaural beats. So 3s would be a slower difference, and it gets even slower as you go closer and closer in pitch. So your brain, what they found is that people's brains start to kind of get in tune, if you will, for lack of a better term. Now I've listened to these beats, and you can like read a book, or you can choose to ignore it, or you can really, really focus and listen to it, and you could find that with breathing, you could find yourself in a very meditative, almost I don't want to say trippy or drug-like state, because there is no high, but a very calmed and centered state. And that's what I find fascinating about these beats.
I definitely disagree with you. I try to describe to people what happens when you meditate with binaural beats, and I often, for lack of a better comparison, say it's really similar to being high on marijuana, because when there's an effect that happens to you when you get THC in your system, and you find it incredibly easy to vegetate. Like you find it incredibly easy to just sit and like be still. And I get the exact same mental effect from binaural beats. All of a sudden, it's like the illusion takes over that part of my mind that would conflict with me just sitting in stillness. And so I do feel like all the comparisons where people say it's the musical drug. There's even I think a service that calls their service musical drugs or something like that, or dose. I think that was the name, dose. Don't quote me on this. I didn't look this up before the call. But, and they bill it like that, and I don't disagree. I feel like when you're under the effect of binaural beats, it's really similar to one aspect. I mean, obviously the effects of cannabis are broad spectrum, and you feel a whole lot more than just that. But I do feel like can you hear my band upstairs? Are they coming through on video? I feel like I feel like that one aspect of the THC is like it correlates directly to what happens to you, the effect of binaural beats, of the ability to slide into that relaxation state.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's very, you can get very lost in your own head, but that place that everybody's trying to go for, I guess, that place in between thinking and not thinking.
Exactly. And I think that if your goal in meditation is to quiet your mind, because I think that's the biggest challenge for a whole lot of people who maybe have tried meditation before and felt like, or are even too intimidated to try because they feel silly trying to quiet their mind. They try and like, well, every time I try to meditate, I can't stop myself from thinking about all the things that trouble me, or I can't stop myself from thinking about this, and I also don't know how long I'm supposed to meditate. Like should I set a timer so that I wake up when I'm supposed to be done? You know, there's a lot of obstacles that people face. I really think feeling silly is one of them. People don't know how to just sit and be with nothing. And so using tools like binaural beats to help make meditation easier makes it a much more welcoming experience. It's like you have something, you're going to play the track. If you're going to meditate until the end of the track, then you already know how long you're going to meditate. You don't need to think, how long am I going to meditate for? And then if you really tune into the beats and you allow yourself to tune into the tranquilizing sounds the frequencies that you're taking in, then you're going to find it a lot easier to let go of thoughts, to accept the thoughts as they come in and then let them go. And even if you don't, even if you stay, that's okay. It's okay to have thoughts.
Yeah, no, it is okay to have thoughts. I mean, this started as an experiment just for myself to see if I can just put a sine wave on or a binaural beat going and see how it would affect my music writing, just to see. And so that's why I made a bunch of these tracks for different frequencies. So like I was saying a second ago, I think we have one more little picture there to show what I'm about to talk about. There's these different differences between the waves create different states of mind. And then, of course, the jury's still out on this. The research on this is very early. But they found, just through anecdotal evidence, just asking people how they felt after long periods of listening to these binaural beats, that they have different experiences. So a lot of the people, especially on YouTube, a lot of the most popular, I think, binaural beats is delta. And this is the deep meditation, the deep sleep sound. And I gotta say, I've actually found that this is to be true. When I wrote Delta 1.25, it's very, very deep and a very long song, and it's very like in that unconscious deep place. Whereas as the frequencies intensify and get further away from the original pitch, again, I'll refer back to A440. If you went from A440 to, let's say, A450 or 456, you're actually not at A anymore. You're at like B or C, a whole different note. So you would come from here, like an A tone, to a higher like C or something, or a higher pitch. So at the gamma level, we're actually talking about two separate pitches. And that doesn't really matter too much. It's a musician that makes a big difference when I'm creating pieces of music over drone tracks. So yeah, gamma is associated with a high level stimulation, like it says right there on the chart here. So it's the whole spectrum. I personally like to create music in the theta state. I found that my favorite pieces on this album, and when I do this on my own, just to kind of jam and meditate, theta seems to be my favorite place to visit in the binaural beat world. But they all work, and I think it's important not to get too hung up on these because, again, this is all anecdotal. I haven't seen much actual. I've tried to look at a lot of scientific research about this, but there's just not much out there. I'd actually be interested if anybody is a professor of psychology or neuroscience. I'd like to talk to somebody in this field doing the actual research instead of finding articles and papers on the web, and maybe even collaborate with them. That's a dream. So if anybody out there is listening is a neuroscientist, hit me up. We'll write some music together and see how it actually affects the brain. But yeah, I've noticed that this anecdotal evidence right here of the differences between delta, theta, alpha, beta, and gamma are mostly hold up in my experiences. Yeah, so Um,
I actually did not. I've never looked at like what one type of binaural beats. Like I've never. Whenever I've looked for binaural beats music, I just I didn't know the difference between one song or the other. I didn't know, so I just I'll try this track out, and if I like it, I use it, and if not,
well, yeah, and I imagine for scientists studying this that it's a very hard thing to study because it's subjective. I mean, what if you've had a lot of coffee that day? You're going to feel more alert when you try and meditate than if you've just woken up and you're really tired and you haven't had any coffee. You know, there's a lot of other things that affect your mood than the binaural beat. But I've definitely found with you know, everybody in this modern society struggles with anxiety. But when I feel overwhelmed and stuff, I'll sit down with a little some pure tone, some pure sine waves, and just kind of sit there for a minute and see where my brain goes. So
that's
usually,
awesome.
yeah, I usually find myself. That's when I come up with some cool ideas. so so the
Nice.
whole point of this album that I'm talking about, even 2 years later, um, is that it was a test to see what these different states of mind would actually put me in creatively, to see what kind of ideas. Because I wrote all these songs improvised, and then I layered and mixed them and worked on them. But this all the ideas, most of it's recorded all in one shot, you know. Uh, so yeah. So do you have any questions? That's my whole spiel. That's everything I thought that I could describe binaural beats in less than I don't know, 20 minutes.
That's awesome. You did absolutely fantastic. I'm super impressed with everything that you just discussed. I did not expect you to give such a thorough presentation. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Just as you were talking just now, I was wondering when and how you had the idea to incorporate binaural beats into your music. I was thinking about and remembering how probably like 15 years ago or longer, we were at your house and you were like, hey, I just started listening to this stuff, or maybe you'd been a fan of it for a while. It was like minimalist music.
Oh,
Do
sure. Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's been
It kind of seems like that same path. It kind of reminds me of like that same musical path.
sure. And minimalism is a deceiving word because it's actually very complicated music, but it is repetitive and meditative. Minimalism's a key to minimalism is different rhythms. So these interlocking rhythms, think world music like gamelan or a lot of traditional African music, and even a lot of rock and roll has this embedded in it. 2/3. Here's a very simple way to describe polyrhythm. I can do it right here with my hands, and this is what minimalism is. Basically, you have 1, 2, 1, 2, and then you have somebody else playing a whole different rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We call this in music school pass the butter, pass the butter, pass the butter, pass the butter. So you have this interlocking of rhythms, and that music is all minimalism is based on those concepts of interlocking rhythms, and it gets like a big quilt or a weave of different rhythms interlocking through these long pieces. So it's very similar. Yeah, that's how I got. But in answer to your question, I got into binaural beats when I was going into therapy. I was in my early 20s. I found myself really depressed, and this therapist, he was experimenting with not experimenting. It's an actual thing they use for, like I said earlier, PTSD and kids with autism. It helps them calm down. And what this is it's a similar idea, but it's more immersed. You hold these paddles and they vibrate back and forth. Meanwhile, you hear these frequencies similar to binaural beats, but it's I don't know the exact method they use. And it goes back and forth. That you put headphones on, and what happens is a similar effect that what happens to me when I listen to binaural beats. You get calm. You're well, and they've studied this. Your brain starts to get in tune with that. You know, that sound. You know that. So, and usually it's at a lower, more pleasant pitch. but you feel it. So this, and I cannot remember for the life of me the methodology they were using, because it wasn't binaural beats. It was EMC. Well, anyway, so that's how I first came across it in my therapy sessions. And eventually I was like, well, this might be a cool tool to use as a composition tool. It was mainly just to experiment as a composer to see what kind of sounds I could come up with. I didn't actually really think I would enjoy the meditation part of it as much as I do now. Uh, so yeah, that's how it started. I guess around 2010 that was. Yeah. So, and I just did a bunch of research on it, and slowly over the years, I've kind of developed a system for making these things. Um, I've actually on and off worked on the next album, so I might put it out soon. So, any other questions about binaural beats or composition in general?
Um, yeah, so you started making that album. I thought you started in like 2016, but you said you started it earlier than that. So you released it as a series, and you did Om. Om is the album that we're talking about, by the way, you guys.
Right. OHM, which is an electronics term for resistance on the speakers, but ohm is also that, ohm. So I thought it was a clever pun.
It is. It is a very clever pun, and I didn't figure out that it was the electronics term until I was looking up binaural beats on Wikipedia, and I was like, "Oh wow, how clever of Patrick!"
Yeah.
I did catch that. So, so you started making the album. Most people, a lot of people watching this probably will have no idea that this type of music, that minimalist, what's it called, minimalism or minimalist?
Minimalism, yeah.
Minimalism,
the people who
and meditative music and all of this is a huge sidestep from what you usually make. People don't realize this. So Patrick records, and I think he records for all different types of musicians. And then he also teaches lessons, and the lessons that you teach are like basic, learn how to play guitar lessons, or do you teach like more advanced music lessons?
Oh, yeah, I teach all ages, all genres, country, rap. Well, I don't teach much rap because it's guitar lessons, but I record all genres: country, rap, metal, punk. And you're right, I'm mainly known in this city of Louisville, Kentucky, as a punk rock, hardcore from my youth, playing in bands. But I've always had interest in classical, jazz, minimalism, new age, experimental. I love all music. All music's great.
So that's what I was referring to, that you have this background that goes all the way back to studying music as a child, and you have this really diverse background that can come out and express itself in lots of different ways. But for people who have heard of you and may already have music of yours or been to shows of yours, the album Om is very different from all the other music that you've made. Would you say that's a pretty fair statement, or music that you typically produce?
Yeah, no, music for meditation, Om, it's by my band, Analog Cannibal. And perhaps I probably should have branded it as me, the composer, Patrick, because our other music is just all over the place, but it's nothing like Om. So if you go online and look up Analog Cannibal, you'll find the music for meditation album, but you'll also find some other tunes you may or may not like, but they're not meditative music. They're sometimes dancey, sometimes heavy, sometimes just rock and roll. So yeah, I enjoy all types of music, and I put it all under my band, which is Analog Cannibal, and I got a group of guys that play with me, and we play shows and put out albums. And so yeah, but like 2 or 3 years ago, I released I was doing a podcast, and I was releasing this music, this meditative music at the same time. I was just putting a bunch of stuff out there. I was also, that same year, I did 50 songs. I put out a song a week, and that's what ended up being these other albums. So it all came from the same website, analogcannibal.com, which is just turned into a band now. But originally it was just a music project, just for fun, I guess. So that's that. But yeah, and I want to get back to making this sort of stuff. We were actually working on it a couple of weeks ago. I think maybe because you contacted me, I was like, oh yeah, I miss making some binaural stuff. But I've been slowly putting together a few every once in a while I'll come back to it and actually record it. I do use it a lot just to create music. I'll have the guys in the band put on headphones, and then we'll all pick a sound wave and we'll all listen to it and then just kind of jam and come up with what ideas we see what happens. I'm always looking for new ways to write music. It's boring to just do the same old verse, chorus, verse, so that's just another way to write music. And it's all about music for me. So, but yeah, I hope this people relax to it. I did promote it, and I think a lot of the rock and roll friends I have didn't quite get it. So maybe some people more into meditation will find it useful to them. So.
Awesome. So I wanted to kind of fill people in on what happened with your album and where it is now, because for everybody who is watching, who is interested, you can purchase Patrick's album through my website. But I just realized that I'm going to, it's $4 higher than we're going to sell it for. So everybody who's watching this YouTube video who wants to purchase the album, we're going to give you a coupon code. Patrick, what is the coupon code to get the album for $10? Give me a code.
Oh, I don't know. Why don't we use one of the terms? Why don't we say Delta, like a Delta wave? Yeah.
Delta, all lowercase.
Sure. Yeah. Right. Or like the airline, but also in this case the sound wave, Delta, right, for deep meditation and deep sleep.
Yeah. So in the comments, it's not there right now, not in the comments, in the description of the video, if you're on YouTube, if you look down, I'm going to put a link where you can sign up for my email and you'll get more information about this. But everybody who signs up for my email, you'll get that coupon offer, Delta, or if you remember it, you can go ahead and go over to my website and order the album with the coupon. And then for people who would like to purchase a meditation cushion from me, if you use a coupon, we'll do the same one, Delta, on the meditation coupons, on the meditation cushions. You will get the album along with your meditation coupon, and the part of the purchase price of the album will go to pay Patrick. You're just basically buying the album, but it's included in the purchase price of the meditation cushion. So let me show you one that I brought with me. This is the cushion that I made that I'm giving away right now. This is on a Rafflecopter giveaway. And it smells really good. It smells really earthy. This cushion is a special one because this fabric is like fancy outdoor fabric, but you can see how it moves. It doesn't look or feel like outdoor fabric. So this is made to be used, like anywhere and wiped clean. It's filled with, I'll give you a look at the filling on the video. Most meditation cushions, if you look them up online, a lot of them that they sell are filled with various grains because you want kind of a beanbag effect where it's firm and supportive when you sit on it, but you want the insides to be able to be movable so that you can kind of squish your cushion into an incline. And that's because of how they're designed to work. So I'll tell you about that in just a second, but I wanted to show you the filling. This is rice hulls from Costa Rica. So if you order one of these, you'll be getting a big bag of rice hulls from Costa Rica. And a lot of the cushions are filled with buckwheat hulls. Buckwheat hulls were not readily available here, but rice hulls were. So it's a locally sourced, environmentally friendly ingredient. If you after a while, after some use, I don't know how long it takes, maybe like if you use it every day for a year or something, you might get some compacting. I don't know how long it takes for them to get compacted and really not, for the cushion to really not hold its shape anymore, but eventually it does. And so you can just dump the hulls out into nature. They're biodegradable. You can put them in your compost or whatever, and then message me and I'll send you a new bag of holes. So this is the cushion that I'm running with the giveaway. And they're not, thank you. They're not available yet on my website. They're not up yet, but they'll be posted in the next couple of days for sale. And I have 3 different styles available. Cushions like this, I'm trying to get it not with a glare, that are hand embroidered. This one has a little lotus with my logo because it was for the giveaway. I did my best job to embroider a logo, my logo. Not too good of a job, but if you've seen my logo, you can tell what this is supposed to be.
You embroidered that yourself?
I did it myself.
I'm all about I'm all about doing things yourself, sure.
And if you see my Instagram, you'll see that the machine that I make this on is operated with my feet. So not only did I make it by hand, but I made it by foot too. So I have 3 styles that I'm going to post on my website. The hand embroidered one is the most expensive. That one will be priced, these ones will be priced at $49. And then for $39, I have a design that is not outdoor fabric, but it is upholstery weight fabric. It's like, I forget what they call those. I'll show you a picture of it. And that design, the ones that are $39 are, they're hand drawn. So I can't describe it. I'll just show you the picture. Let me see if I can find the picture around here. And so I did, the first one of those is the yantra image of the Anahata chakra, which is the heart chakra. And I can't find my pictures here. Sorry. Here we go. So. Why is that not part of the screen share? Did you see that? It's like the Slurpee cup. Let's not do that.
Talking about an optical illusion.
Let me try it.
Within a picture.
A picture forever and ever.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I'm just amazed this is happening. You're in Costa Rica. I'm in Kentucky. Ooh, that looks cool. Yeah.
So yeah, this is the other model, and this one, yes, will be $39, and this is a hand-drawn. Here, now you can see me pointing. This is a hand-drawn image. I did this myself, and this is the actual yantra image of the Anahata chakra. I added that on because the pillow was green. I thought I'll just make this cushion a heart chakra meditation cushion. And if you're into yoga and yantra meditation, yantras are images that are typically utilize a lot of sacred geometry, and they are ancient images used for meditation purposes. You're supposed to look at the image, and it's a relaxing image to help you get into meditation. So you don't have to sit and look at your cushion, but you can enjoy the beautiful design. I don't know how you would sit on it and look at it at the same time. And then there's.
Go ahead. That's similar to the Analog Cannibal logo with the 2 triangles. Yeah,
it is. I love your logo. Your logo is so cool.
I got it from the Earth, Wind, Fire, Air triangles. Do you know what I'm talking about? Those pagan symbols. Where,
no, I'm not up on my pagan symbology.
Well, that's with these triangles. When you take them in different, if you look at different spots of the triangle, one is supposed to represent Earth, one is supposed to represent air, fire, and water. So. And then you put them all together, you get that's why the triangles overlap with each other. But anyway, that's something you could go down the Wikipedia rabbit hole if you're so inclined. So.
So, so excellent. If you're watching this video after the broadcast, then you will see in the description of the video, there'll be a link to where you can find Patrick's album on my website. There'll be a link to the store, my store, where you can buy the cushions. And if you remember the coupon code that we gave you a little bit earlier, you can put in that coupon code. Otherwise, there'll also be a link where you can sign up for my email, and I will send everybody who is signed up for my email, I will send you the coupon codes to get either the discount on Patrick's album. You can pick up his album for just $10, or to get a free album with the purchase of a meditation cushion. And we are only going to run this promotion through, let's say, the end of July. How's that sound, Patrick?
Sounds good to me. I'll just make another album.
Yeah, and then stay tuned, and I'll update you guys when Patrick publishes a new album. So we'll run this promotion to the end of July and see how interested people are in it. This is really important to me as a yoga teacher because obviously when people come to my class, or if you just follow me online, you know, whether you're consuming my content in person by coming to my yoga classes or you're following me online, my goal is to give you the best result possible. And I want to see people going into meditation. I want to see people getting the most benefit out of both their physical asana practice and their meditation practice, because it's one and the same. And so that's why I got into binaural beats. You know, it's really common in the United States, and this happened to me because I have I'm in a unique position in Costa Rica where I teach classes I teach yoga at a resort. I teach at a retreat center that's not far from my house. And they get people from the United States, from all over the world. I've had students from India who came to the resort, and you know, somebody from India comes to Costa Rica to get their first yoga class from a girl from Kentucky. It's like this wild chain you never would have expected.
Yeah. I never thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah. The world works in mysterious ways. But, you know, I've had people, this happens in the United States, but I've actually had people do this in my yoga classes here in Costa Rica, where people come to class with an idea in their head of what they want from their yoga class, like maybe their hamstrings are tight, or maybe they're just looking for a workout, or maybe they want to relax, you know, whatever it is. And they come and they do the pranayama breathing exercises in the beginning of class, and they do the asana practice, so they do all the physical yoga poses. And when I ask them to lay down on their back, and I typically do about 30 seconds to a minute of guided meditation, which is like a little relaxation. You know, relax the muscles of the forehead, relax the muscles of your eyes, relax your jaw and your neck, and I guide people in so that they relax. They'll follow me and they'll obey until they're left alone in meditation. And then they get up. And it's really common. It seems so weird for people who there's so many people who thoroughly enjoy Savasana. And they're like, that's the best part of class. I love the meditation at the end of class. But the opposite side of that is people who find it really uncomfortable and who aren't willing to sit through or to lay through Savasana. Or they lay for a few minutes and all of a sudden that little reminder goes off in their brain. Uh-oh, danger. Something could happen. I'm here supine. I'm laying on my back and my chest is exposed and my stomach is exposed and my genitals are exposed. You know, I'm completely exposed. And especially if you're laying down and you can't see me, you don't realize that somebody is shepherding over you, that you're having like this safe meditation experience. You can be completely private, you know, because it's a guarded experience. But those are the people that I most enjoy having in my class, the people who find it really uncomfortable, because I can help them the most. I mean, obviously, you get a lot of benefit if you come to class and you really enjoy meditation, and welcome, you know. But for people that I get to talk to them for the very first time about, okay, this is how you can sit and have a really tall spine and feel really comfortable sitting for 10, 20, 30 minutes in meditation. This is how you can use binaural beats to make meditation a lot more welcoming and help you get from point A to point B a whole lot easier, meaning help you make the transition from our regular waking brain state into theta or even higher brain waves. Yeah, that's my goal of every class, and that's my goal with every student that comes, is to help them get to that point. And so that's why why binaural beats and this talk with Patrick was so important to me, because this is the information that I most want to bring to people, and also why I wanted to make meditation cushions. And so let's see how well you can see me on the floor, just to do a little demonstration here. When you sit down on the floor, if you have your knees up, your back kind of needs to round. And so the goal is to get your knees as low to the floor as you can. But as you see, if you sit like in regular seated position on the floor with your feet tucked under your legs, your knees are instantly higher. Well, if you're a flexible person, like me, or like somebody who's been practicing for a while, you can sit in half lotus, and then you're able to sit up a little bit higher, or maybe you can sit in full lotus, and even then you can sit up a little bit higher. But my knees are still a little bit higher off the floor, which means from the side, I still have to round my spine a little bit. I'm not very well supported, which is why, and especially for people, you know, I have all different people of all different abilities and body types come into my yoga class, and I want them to be able to sit comfortably in meditation. And so a meditation cushion is designed, if you can see this, to support you at an angle so that you have more of the filling on one side and the other. And so if I set this down, what happens is I can get my hips higher off the floor than my knees. And then I don't even have to sit in half lotus. I can just sit with my legs open, and then instantly my knees reach a lot lower down to the ground. My hips are a lot higher, and I have a lot more freedom to sit up really straight. So as far as tools that make meditation far easier, far more accessible, for me, nothing beats having a nice fur cushion that can support you in that position, which is why I wanted to make some and do them as a giveaway.
Cool. Yeah.
Thank you. So I think that's about it. And yeah, Patrick, anything else that you want to add?
No. I just like making music, so I hope everybody enjoys my music.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. Yeah, see you in yoga class.